we use publicly available models with our data in a safe and secure way. Provide significant additional context around prompts, right? So if you interact with ChatGPT, you're working directly with the large language model.
Today on the Daily Scoop podcast from the Scoop News Group, how the State Department is evolving use of its StateChat chatbot. State's John Silson shares the details. It's Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Welcome to the Daily Scoop podcast, where you'll hear the latest news and trends facing government leaders. I'm the host of the Daily Scoop podcast, Billy Mitchell. Thanks so much for tuning in. Here are today's top headlines. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is reopening the deferred resignation program and also offering early retirement to eligible civilian workers as he seeks to maximize participation. Hegseth signed a memo Friday initiating the Workforce Acceleration and Recapitalization Initiative that was directed to senior Pentagon leadership, combatant commands, and defense agency and field activity directors. The move comes as department leaders are looking to shed civilian employees and reinvest the savings elsewhere as part of the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency efforts. Hegseth said DoD is offering the deferred resignation opportunity as well as voluntary early retirement authority to all eligible civilian employees, noting that exemptions will be rare. He wrote in a March 28th memo, quote, "My intent is to maximize participation so that we can minimize the number of involuntary actions that may be required to achieve the strategic objectives." Prior to the issuance of the new directive, the Pentagon was already placing more than 20,000 employees on administrative leave and a path to full termination, following staff approval for voluntary participation in the Trump administration's previous round of the Elon Musk-inspired Fork in the Road initiative. In other news, Karen Evans, a longtime federal IT official who previously held the role that preceded the creation of the Federal Chief Information Officer, was nominated last week to serve as Undersecretary for Management at the Department of Homeland Security. Evans, whose nomination has been referred to the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, joined the Trump administration earlier this year as Executive Assistant Director for Cybersecurity at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Evans' role at CISA was one of the most prominent cyber jobs in the federal government, leading the agency's mission to protect and strengthen federal civilian agencies and the nation's critical infrastructure against cyber threats. Before joining CISA, Evans spent the previous 3+ years working as the managing director of the Cyber Readiness Institute, a nonprofit geared toward educating and creating free cyber tools for small and medium-sized businesses. And for much of George W. Bush's administration, Evans served as administrator of the Office of Electronic Government and Information Technology. That office, which set the stage for the Office of Management and Budget's federal CIO, was charged with implementing IT initiatives across the federal government and leading the CIO Council, among many other responsibilities. Evans later served as National Director of the U.S. Cyber Challenge, Assistant Secretary for Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response in the Department of Energy, and as CIO of DHS. For more news at the intersection of the federal government and technology, make sure to visit FedScoop.com. The Department of State is continuing to expand its artificial intelligence chatbot known as StateChat, including working toward a mobile version and the ability to query internal messages called cables. That's what John Silson, Director of Analytics in the State Department's Center for Analytics, recently told FedScoop reporter Madison Alder during an SNG Live event on AI and automation. During that conversation, they touched on how State is continuing to iterate on StateChat, how the department is working to maximize adoption, the importance of context in prompting, and what comes next. Let's go now to that conversation between FedScoop reporter Madison Alder and the State Department's John Silson.
All right, well, thank you so much for sticking around for our last discussion. We are going to talk today about tailoring and training AI at the State Department, which is a really interesting case study because the department's been doing a lot to roll out AI tools to its workforce directly and really put tools in the hands of that workforce. So, John, I'd like to start out by just kind of having you describe what your role is at the Center for Analytics and kind of what the center's role is in the larger scheme of AI work at the department.
Sure. Thanks very much, Madison. It's really terrific to be here. So my name is John Silson. I'm the Director of Analytics at the Center for Analytics. What we do organizationally is provide data and AI solutions across the State Department. We seek to be the leader that delivers results around those issues for teams in the department. And my team specifically does implementation around data use cases, but then also AI use cases. And increasingly, I would say we find those things to be quite blended at the State Department.
Right. Chief among them seems to be StateChat, which we've heard a lot about at our own events. I've reported on quite a bit. This is the ChatGPT-like interface that State has internally. So could you talk a little bit about what people are using this for at State and kind of how that came to be?
Absolutely. Let me zoom out for a second for people who have not maybe heard of StateChat, even though you have been reporting on it excellently. So StateChat is designed to be a user interface that interacts with large language models so that our teams can use a large language model on internal information. The goal there is to make our information much more usable within the context of a large language model. We began beta and alpha testing it last spring, rolled it out to the entire department in August of 2024. And now we have just under 3 million prompts in the system, a little over 10,000 users per week, and broad uptake across our policy teams in the State Department. It's really an exciting kind of tool. And the thing that I think really drives that success is the flexibility of the tool, right? In many cases, if you were doing natural language processing on data sets or unstructured language or text, you can create something using that, but the tool that you create is relatively bespoke and difficult to adapt to different kinds of circumstances. One of the powers of engaging with a large language model in the way that we have is that it provides flexibility for the users. So today you can jump into it and use it to support drafting and evaluation. Tomorrow you can jump into it and put 4 documents in it and get a summary of those documents. And that flexibility, I think, is a big part of what drives use. And we've seen a proliferation of use cases across the department.
So from the front end, it looks seamless. It looks like ChatGPT. It's easy for the user. I'm sure a lot goes into the back end to make that happen. So talk to me about how you are making sure that this is something that is tailored for State Department specific uses, so it's actually usable for the workforce.
Yeah, that's a great question. We do a lot of work to make sure that it happens, it's safe for our teams, and that it's effective for our teams. One thing to say at the beginning, though, sometimes there is fuzzy language around models like training. We use publicly available models with our data in a safe and secure way. Provide significant additional context around prompts, right? So if you interact with ChatGPT, you're working directly with the large language model. And sometimes that's part of the reason that it takes a couple of tries to get something right to pop out of the machine, right? From our perspective, one of the things that our teams have begun to do is create sophisticated prompting that occurs around the prompt that you provide, and providing significant information to the large language model that we use about how the State Department operates and about how to achieve different kinds of tasks. So if you drop, for example, text into our tool and you say, summarize this, right? It will cause the large language model to summarize it in a specific way, right? It's saying, like, the prompt that the large language model receives is, you are a mid-career professional at the State Department. You are an expert in all things diplomatic, et cetera, et cetera. Please produce a summary in the following format. And to us, that's been a big part of the power. And you talked a little bit about adoption earlier. A big part, in our view, about why we have seen adoption go well. With many technology tools, the trick is if it doesn't work once, then people will walk away. Our goal is to reduce the number of times that happens, and we continuously monitor the output of StateChat, and we find it to be extraordinarily effective at responding to the user's questions. So
as you are monitoring it, as it's being flexible for the workforce, what are some of the things on the horizon that you're hoping StateChat will do, or you're fine-tuning it to be able to do eventually?
Yeah. So I've been in the State Department for about 20 years, right? And one of the big challenges that we have in the State Department is we have this incredible aperture of collection in the field, right? Our missions overseas, our teams that are there, and all of that channels through a relatively small team here in Washington, D.C. So we see a lot of opportunity for large language models to perform analysis, to help people to find the data that they need, to move quickly in the way that we need in Washington. So we have a couple of things that are coming on the horizon that I'm really excited about. The first one is in the State Department, our knowledge backbone, for those who are not familiar, is what we call cables, named after telegrams, right, from long ago. They're sort of short newspaper articles that our team members send back from the field. We are working to ingest those news articles into StateChat so that our teams can query against them, find out what they're saying, understand last times that we met with people, the sorts of things that we've said around the world as we've engaged with different partners. We view that as a particularly powerful use case. We're really excited about it and working on it today. Another one that's really exciting to me is we're working on building out StateChat as a mobile application that our team members can use on their government phones. So ensuring that we continue to maintain the security of our apparatus, but then also put it in our diplomats' hands as they're walking around and taking meetings and working with individuals. Beyond that, we have other kinds of technical improvements that we're working on, but those are not as exciting as the top line view. As a diplomat myself, I am excited about using these kinds of tools in the future because I think it can help us to manage our knowledge and information much more effectively in the State Department and make our teams just really much more able to engage our partners overseas and work on policy here in Washington.
That's really fascinating. When it comes to using StateChat as a mobile application and kind of expanding those uses, how are you thinking about security and making sure that these applications are stay internal to the State Department and don't get into the wrong hands? Yeah,
that's also really important for us. From the State Department's perspective, from the Center for Analytics perspective, security has been paramount to this entire process. What we have done is find trusted partners to work with and work with them to provide access to the models that we use while retaining data inside State Department systems and preventing that data from being used externally to train models that we're using. So if you work with StateChat, which is currently running on ChatGPT, the data that you insert into StateChat does not leave State Department systems, and it is not used to train ChatGPT's model externally.
StateChat obviously isn't the only AI use case that the department has. Another one that we've heard about is declassifying documents. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you go about training AI to do something like document declassification?
Yeah, that's a fun project. We love talking about this. It was one of our first real applications of artificial intelligence in the department. In this case, we have a machine learning algorithm that we have trained to support our teams that are doing declassification. So we are required by statute to review and release if we have no reason to retain documents that are 25 years old. The challenge is this, in the 90s, because of the advent of computers in our classified systems, our number of classified documents goes like this. Currently, we're reviewing the mid-90s, but anticipating that we see a big spike coming after the 2000s, we created a machine learning model that we trained on data and decisions of declassifiers inside the State Department, looking at the years 1995 and 1996. We then took that learning in that machine learning model and we applied it to 1997 last year and now 1998 this year. And what we're finding is that our model is extraordinarily effective. We find that it returns 98% plus similar results to human declassifiers. And because we continually monitor the project and the process, we have a continual review process with those same humans. And when we show the humans our results against their decision, they frequently side with the machine. Because it turns out that humans get tired when they sit in a room that's full of documents to review for declassification. So we're really excited about that project. We're continuing to tune and expand it, right? Obviously, terminology changes over time, so we have to be careful about that occurring. There can be different kinds of directives about how we treat declassification or classification over time, so we have to be able to be responsive to those. But generally speaking, it's been a really terrific project, and quite frankly, has provided our team the capability to really feel confident that we are giving every document a review prior to releasing it at the 25-year line. So it's been a really exciting one for us.
You mentioned the humans in the loop in that process, and I'm curious, what you've heard, any feedback from those people about efficiencies they've gained in their job, if it's been able to make it faster or make the process easier for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to expand to talk a little bit about StateChat here too. In terms of the document review, I mean, the bottom line is that the team that reviews documents in the State Department is starting to say now, we can't do this without this tool. Like, we could not keep up with the reviews without this kind of tool. StateChat itself, right? I talked a little bit about usage metrics at the beginning. We have 10,000 plus weekly users. Every single one of those people, we survey them and we find out how they find they're saving time. They tell us that on average they save 3 hours a week, right? So that's a subset of people telling us that they're saving 3 hours a week, but there are 10,000 of them. So we're estimating the department is saving between conservatively 20 and 30,000 hours a week using some of these tools, which is really incredible for us, and really, I think, gives our team both an edge in negotiations and information management that's helping them to be more effective in the field.
I guess ultimately, as you're working on either tailoring AI or training AI for State Department use, what are the boxes you're trying to check to make sure that these tools are actually useful for the State Department? What is your goal in terms of the actual output that any of these AI tools will have?
Yeah, so as my former boss used to say, analysis without communication helps one person. So one of the things that we're trying to do a lot with these tools is engage with the teams in the State Department that are actually using them. How can we make them better? How can we make them more effective? The biggest component of that is, in the last talk, you were talking a little bit about training. The biggest component of that for us is a really transformative training program and outreach program that our team has put together. So we train on prompting, we train on other kinds of use cases. We also listen when we train, like what kinds of things are people saying they need around the State Department, and how can we help State Department teams be more effective? And for us, that creates a virtuous cycle where not only are we teaching people how to use the tool effectively, but we're also hearing what else they need so we can start to build that into future releases. And in a way, that's a very non-government kind of way to approach developing a technical tool. We iterate, we build, we try to make it better over time. And I think that's part of what has made StateChat an exciting and really dynamic deployed tool inside the State Department.
Great. Well, John, thank you so much for your insights. This has been a really valuable conversation, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Madison. Thank you.
For more on federal digital experience, visit FedScoop.com. The Daily Scoop podcast is available on all podcast platforms. If you've already rated the podcast on your platform of choice, thanks so much. High ratings and good reviews of the show help more people find it. The Daily Scoop podcast is a production of the Scoop News Group in Washington, D.C. Adam Butler and Carlin Fisher help put the show together, and the entire Scoop News Group team contributes. We'll be back next week with brand new episodes. Until then, I'm your host, Billy Mitchell. Thanks so much for listening.